Now, elsewhere, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger are introducing new biometric passports as they sever ties with the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, to form a new Sahel alliance. The three military-led nations announced their departure from the 15-member bloc in January, and Burkina Faso has already rolled out passports without the ECOWAS logo. Now, Malian junta leader Assimi Goïta confirmed that the new passports, part of the alliance of Sahel states, aim to harmonize travel documents and facilitate global mobility. A shared information channel will also be launched to promote consistent communication among the three countries. Now, ECOWAS has warned that this move could impact the freedom of movement and common market within the region.
Well, joined now by RISE analyst Dr. Constance Ikoku. Constance, glad to have you join us this morning.
Good morning.
Well, they are giving their reason for severing ties with ECOWAS in July. They said this is because they want to establish a community of sovereign states based on African values, free from foreign intervention. Of course, already they have asked the French to leave their country. What's your sense of this reason they are giving?
Well, these three nations have made what can be considered as a significant move, because this cements their alliance and they are taking concrete steps in spite of the fact that ECOWAS has warned of further disintegration within the bloc. These nations have, said they are launching the biometric passport as a way of harmonizing travel documents within the common area. And they're not listening to ECOWAS because they say they want their countries to be far from the control of foreign powers. This can be understood within the context of the unwieldy influence of France, which was a former colonial power in these countries, and the consideration that, or the sentiment that France has not served them well. On the geopolitical dimension, what we are seeing is that they are looking for fresh perspectives and fresh partners, whether it's Russia, whether it's China. They believe that they have to find another way to run their region. Now, ECOWAS is a little bit jittery, but also what this says, or what this indicates, is that there was a mismanagement of the crisis or the fiasco with these countries. It could have been managed better, but now this presents a problem for the ECOWAS authorities.
And I think one more problem that we can talk about is sort of what are the immediate political or economic consequences that we may see for citizens of Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, especially in terms of regional integration and cross-border movement?
Well, that has to be discussed, because the first thing is that you will have to ask, how would they move within the ECOWAS region? There used to be a 15-member nation, free visa movement. Now they have formed their own alliance. What would that look like? My sense is that there will be discussions on how this will impact them politically and economically. Like I said initially, it was a military collaboration between them. They're expanding the framework, and they seem to know what they're doing within the context of the historical ties that they feel should be changed dramatically, and they're taking steps to do that. I think that in the coming months, there will be more talks between them and ECOWAS to find a middle ground here. It is unfortunate that the region has been fractured. It is not something that we need to see, and it has happened under the leadership of Nigeria. It means that the country or the authorities probably did not read the signs well, did not understand the sentiments on the ground, and did not understand the changing times. Times are really changing, and different countries are striking that new partnerships that they feel will help them better to move forward, especially in the context that they've been fighting terrorist insurgencies and they have been allegedly helped by those countries, and it did not make any difference. So what we are seeing is new levels of partnership, new levels of alliances, and everyone is trying to do what they think will serve them better.
When you talk about changing times, indeed times are changing all over the world. Coup is not tolerated. The military is looked at in a very uncharitable way. I mean, that was what happened in this nation. So when you say it wasn't managed well, the idea was that democracy, military cannot be tolerated, from ECOWAS. Now, if you say it wasn't managed well, what could it have done better? And what are the implications of this for regional unity and security?
The coup was condemned by many people across the region and the world. And I think the sentiment is that, yes, a military regime might not be the best way forward. However, there is something also called diplomacy. Diplomats have said that there was a way that if it was discussed or handled, they will still remain within the bloc. And then there could be a timetable on when they can return to democracy. You don't give them marching orders. They're not going to listen to that, which is exactly what has happened. Now they've gone it all alone and nobody is stopping them. So what do you do about that? Again, it is about leadership. Yes, you do not want a military regime, but they seem to be supported by their countries. And when they had democratic leadership in the country, it did not make any difference. And that's one thing that African leaders are not looking at. The countries within the bloc or even within the continent, there are so-called democracies. What kind of democracies are they practicing? How are they impacting or affecting the lives of the people? Has democracy made them progress? Has it improved lives at all? If it hasn't, people are asking those questions. You cannot stop them from asking those questions. And I think this conversation will continue.
I just wanted to touch on something. We're talking about how foreign influence also is a factor to this development that we're seeing. Well, you have some sort of alliance, the alliance of the Sahel states sort of pivoting towards Russia for military support. How do you think they were able to balance that? If you're saying we don't want any more interference from the outside countries outside of Africa, how will they manage to balance that?
I think what they're talking about is levels of control. When you go to the former Francophone countries, France seemed to be the country that had the most hold. And when you see some of the agreements they signed with France, we're talking about the colonial agreements, post-colonial agreements they signed with France, it seemed to have been, disastrous for them. So now it's been difficult for them to step out from that. So they are trying to say, let's step out first of all, and then we decide who comes into our territories. We decide, how they run with us. We decide what they do. We call the shots. Essentially, that's what they're saying. Whether that would be in reality, we don't know. We are looking at what's happening today. This is, early days. We'll see how this works. But, from one or two things that we have seen, they're taking over their mineral resources. They're trying to decide the prices. They're saying this is what we'll offer you. If you want to come into our countries, you have to build the factories. Well, some people might say, well, this is a level of control that these countries want to have, which they previously did not have. But as I said before, the times are changing. The internet is dramatically providing more information for populations and citizens, and they're saying, hey, leaders, you need to do better, and that's what we are saying.
Thank you so much.
Okay, and then of course there is the impact citizens travel, it will have on citizens travel to other ECOWAS nations where visa-free movement was previously guaranteed. But that's the much we can take. Thank you so much, Constance, for being on.
You're welcome.